Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you might happen to be joining us today. If you are new here, welcome. If you have been here before, welcome back. Now this week, we are jumping into a bit more D&D. Session 12 we're up to now. Seems to be moving along nicely. Now, we did have the full session play that released a couple days ago. Today, we will have the narrative recap for you. So if you are jumping in here, I would highly suggest you go back to session 1 and start there so that you know what's going on. But these narrative recaps are basically a quick 20-30 minute retelling of a 4 or 5 hour gaming session done into a narrative story for you. A little bit of an audio book. So jump in, enjoy, comment below if you like what you're seeing, and yeah, have fun. The pale light of morning filters through low, colorless clouds as the group cuts across Titan's inner circle, moving along cobbled streets that curve toward the southern coast. The closer they draw to the center of the city, the more the world seems to quiet. Ahead, the eternal nothing rises from the square like a wound in the sky, an obsidian void suspended above the ground, impossibly still. Even in daylight, the space around it feels colder, thinner, like the air itself is afraid to linger too long. Zethian walks closest to the anomaly, his usual flickering heat dimmed to little more than a shimmer. Every time they pass by this place, his aura weakens, his flame guttered like a candle in the wind. He says nothing, but Saladin watches him with a flicker of concern. Still not used to that thing, Theodore mutters, glancing up at the black hollow. Don't think we're supposed to be, Saladin replies. They turn south, heading downhill as the scent of salt and low tide begins to drift in from the coast. The beach lies beyond the city's edge, scattered with black pebbles and sea glass, and the water is rough and cold this time of year. As they approach the shoreline, Saladin slows and steps deliberately into the surf. The cursed half-plate clinging to his frame groans as the waves lap at his knees, and he shudders at the bite of the sea. Fantastic, he mutters. What good is a beach when the water's this cold? He looks back at Zethian, flashing a crooked grin. This armor makes me look like a budget sea king. Think I can swim in it? Zethian raises an eyebrow but says nothing. Without waiting for a response, Saladin pushes forward, throwing himself into the deeper water. The armor drags against every movement, but he stays afloat, barely. With effort, he manages several strokes before surfacing again, panting but grinning. Not bad, he calls. Could be worse. Zethian gives a nod of approval. Could be useful. The tide pulls at the edge of the beach as they make their way toward the Salty Kraken, a weather-beaten tavern perched on the edge of the southern district. Beneath the cracked sign, barnacle-crusted stone walls flank a narrow door, and from within comes the low hum of quiet conversation. The place belongs to Marlowe Stonetide, a Triton with murky eyes and an even murkier reputation. If anyone knows where Snitchy has gone, it's him. Inside the Salted Kraken, the air is damp with brine and the scent of old fish oil. Netting hangs from the ceiling as decoration, or perhaps as camouflage, and the shadows are thick along the far wall where patrons huddle in tight circles over mugs of stale ale. Theodore enters first, disguised as one of the dead men they encountered on a recent job. He walks with the easy gait of someone meant to be here, orders a drink, and leans toward the bar. Looking for Snitchy and Davy, he says casually. Marlowe, polishing a glass carved from a giant shell, doesn't even blink. He pours the drink, sets it down, and continues his work. Outside, Saladin and Talek wait along the street, eyes scanning passers-by. Inside, Theodore spots something, a quiet, subtle exchange. Marlowe leans toward a man seated at the end of the bar and mutters something too soft to hear. The man nods, rises, and walks with deliberate calm toward the back of the tavern, slipping into a seat at a rear table. Seeing Theodore head towards the back, Zethian appears at the door a moment later. "We've got a problem," he says flatly. Saladin cracks his knuckles, finally. Theodore moves through the tavern with practiced ease, approaching the back table. The man, Snitchy, the one they've been looking for, sits with a worn look and a guarded gaze. He isn't alone. A woman sits beside him, clutching the hand of a little girl who watches the stranger approach with wide eyes. Theodore pulls out a chair and sits, keeping his tone gentle. "It's been a while," he says. "I figured I'd find you here." Snitchy studies him for a long moment, then shakes his head. "You look like someone I knew." Maybe his brother or cousin, but you're not him. We've done business before. Theodore tries again. You know me. Snitchy frowns deeper. No, you're not him. The woman shifts uneasily. The child tightens her grip on her mother's sleeve. Roland, she asks, voice uncertain. Theodore sighs. This isn't going anywhere. He pushes back from the table, standing slowly. Forget it. Without another word, he walks away. Before Snitchy, Roland, can fully relax, another figure looms over the table. Saladin steps up, placing his hands on the wood and leaning in just enough to send a message. His voice is low and flat. You're coming with me. The woman gasps quietly. The little girl clings tighter. Roland goes still. You know who I am, Saladin continues. You know what this is. Roland's gaze darts toward the bar, where Marlowe stands motionless, watching, but offering no help. The silence stretches until finally Roland nods. You won't hurt my family? As Saladin nods, Roland rises, wordless. Saladin turns and Roland follows. On the beach, with the waves rolling in behind them, the questioning begins. I don't know who the elf was, Roland says. Marlowe gave me a letter and told me to pass it along. That's all? Saladin's arms are crossed. Where's the sword? Fenced, Roland answers. Marlowe handled it. Saladin turns to Talek. He could be useful, as a mole. Talek shakes his head. He has a family. He needs out. Roland, shaking now, agrees with a nod. Saladin sighs. Fine, but we're not done with Marlowe. They return to the Salted Kraken. The tavern is quieter than before, eerily so. The tables are empty, and the light from the windows is thin and gray. 6 large figures stand along the bar, backs straight, eyes unblinking. Something's wrong. Bar's closed, one growls. Saladin doesn't stop. We have business with Marlowe. Bar's closed, the creature repeats. Talek steps forward, voice hard. They're not just muscle. Saladin narrows his eyes. Sahuagin sea devils. Theodore doesn't wait for permission. He grins and attacks. The fight explodes in a blur of motion. Theodore steps forward, grinning, and extends his hands. A black void tears into existence midair, rippling with dark energy. Tentacles reach out, twisting, grasping. Saladin watches, half in awe, half in revulsion. I think I want to lick it. Talek replies without looking. Please don't. One Sahuagin is ripped into the void with a scream that's cut short. Another is impaled onto the wall by the huge tentacle as it throws him with lethal precision. Theodore flashes a grin. Cool, right? And then Theodore stumbles too close. The void pulls. The tentacle reaches out, grasping Theodore instead of the enemy. Theodore disappears into the darkness. Saladin blinks, then bursts out laughing half in sarcasm and half in nervousness. Nice.